On paper, UFC London was a spectacular fight card. It was loaded from top to bottom with young prospects. We had a former world champion in the main event. The co-main event had a couple of big boys who are known for finishes. But the delivery of UFC London did not live up to those expectations. We had 13 fights. 10 of them were boring decisions. The 3 finishes were pretty fun, but overall, this card was not very good. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to recap the very lackluster UFC London. Before we talk about the fights, let's talk about the bets. If you thought the fights were bad, wait till you check out these bets. The bets weren't much better. There were a couple of highlights, though. We had Bet Sam hit his slam of the week. If you don't know what that is, he picks somebody he's very confident in, and he slams down multiple units on him. That was Carlos Ulberg. We'll talk about that fight. That one was dicey. Jacob's underdog lock of the week also won. Jacob picks an underdog every single week, and that underdog has been doing quite well. He has hit 6 in a row, 7 of the last 8. We had a couple of cool prop bets that hit as well. Sean Brady to win by submission, plus 400. That hit. I hit a couple of underdogs, which isn't normally my thing. I hit Caue Fernandes, Kevin Holland, but a lot of these other bets, absolute dumpster fire dog shit, which really reflected the quality of this fight card. Here's a closer look at Jacob's underdog lock of the week. 6 in a row. If all you did was put 1 unit on his underdog lock of the week, you'd be doing pretty well. You would have a 111% ROI. You would have almost 9 units of net profit over the last 8 events. That's just one single bet. He picks an underdog, stamps his name on it, moves on with his life. Last week, plus 215 Sam Hughes. This week, plus 110 Chris Padilla. This was a very close decision, but he did get it, and we'll talk about that fight in a minute. And if you do want to check out all the picks and the bets and everything else that we have to offer, I promise you, I promise, listen, the UFC London bets, they can't be that bad for UFC Mexico, right? That's impossible. But UFC Mexico is next week. UFC Mexico is a spectacular fight card. If you want early access to every single pick, every single bet, every single tool to help you make picks and bets, it's all available on the website. Just go to WeWantPicks.com. And if you sign up now, you're not just going to get UFC Mexico. You get UFC Vegas 105 and UFC 314, which is shaping up to be the best pay-per-view of the year. Everything we do, including the picks and the bets and the tools, are available inside of our app. Just go to the App Store, search We Want Picks, download the app. The key feature here is the push notifications. You install the app, you turn notifications on every time we place a bet, a pick, new content, bang, that gets pushed to your phone and you're ready to go. Even though the fight card wasn't very good overall, the very first fight was. The tone was set. It was set as a bit of a teaser. We got cuckolded a little bit, pretending this was going to be a spectacular fight card, and it wasn't. But Caue Fernandes set the tone. And he beat the shit out of Guram. He beat Guram every second of that fight. I don't think Guram had any success whatsoever. What did he do? Land a random kick here or there? That's it, dude. Caue had the better striking, the better takedown defense, the better takedown offense. Literally everything about his fight game was better than Guram's. And I love it because I picked him. I picked Caue. I sat in this chair a week ago. And I said, I'm opening up this fight card with a dog. I picked a bunch of dogs on this card. Mostly successfully, which is shocking because I'm not the dog guy. But Caue Fernandes smoked Guram. He literally was the better striker. The power was there. The counter-striking was there. All the fake kicking bullshit that Guram did not matter. Guram immediately turned into a wrestler. Did not matter. Caue, just to put a sort of a cherry on the top of his performance, just to prove a point, he took down Guram multiple times just to prove a point. Didn't need to, was smoking him on the feet, dropped him, could have finished him a few times. Caue Fernandes looked unbelievable. 2 things here. 1, Guram needs a real fucking coach. He came out to this fight with the Topuria brothers and Hamzat. Get a coach. Get a coach. Oh, those fighters are good, so I'm going to be good through osmosis? That's not how life works. How many times you been to a bar and there's a skinny hot chick and her fucking fat friend next to her? You ever look at the fat friend and go, hey, man, she's not so fat. Not before 10 of these, at least. And that's what Guram's trying to do. He's the fat friend. He's hanging out, brought a couple of hot chicks with him, trying to convince us, hey, I'm hot too. Look who I'm with. I'm hot too. No, you're fat and ugly. He has 1 win in the UFC. He should have been cut. And he probably is cut, honestly. I don't know why I'm ranting. I successfully picked. This is an angry Ange rant as if he cost me something. No, I successfully picked against him, so I'm good here. Caue looked phenomenal. I did feel a little bad for him in the post-fight speech. He's doing his best to speak English. We and the English people need to do a better job applauding foreign fighters when they at least try to speak English. He's trying. He's attempting. It was pretty good, honestly. He speaks better English than I speak Portuguese, but it was like crickets in there when he was saying stuff. And even, they prepped him. They're like, just say, let's go, and London, baby, and nobody gave a shit. But Kaue looked good. Guram did not. Cut him. And I'm happy about it. I made some money. The best part about it is Jacob and I were two of some of the only people on the planet that picked Kaue Fernandes. If you're wondering what this graphic is, somebody out there takes the time to find every single video of every asshole that has a webcam that does fight breakdowns. And that's what this list is. Every boring nerd with the webcam that does fight breakdowns. And he tracks them all. Who's good at it? Who sucks at it? Couple of things. Big Ange picked Kaue. Jakey Boy picked Kaue. And then you say, Ange, why is your name in green? Because I'm fucking good at this is why my name's in green. And before your weird basement dwelling ass, I'm only talking to some of you, not all of you, comments, bro picked Molly. Well, guess what? My name's green, which tells you I am one of the best on planet Earth at picking fights. Does that mean I'm going to pick every fight correct? No, I'm not autistic. Does that mean that every bet that ever gets placed is going to hit? No, I'm not autistic. What it does mean, though, is that I'm picking at a far higher percentage than 90% of the world. You know who else is? Bet Sam. Jakey Boy and I on the Kaue side. Jakey placed a bet, that bet cashed. I placed a bet, it refunded because I'm a bit of a coward. I mentioned I got a vasectomy a few years ago. I think they did remove the testicles as well because I'm picking dogs. I'm just not full betting on him. What I did bet, though, was Kaue Fernandes inside the distance, decision, no action. I was like, he could finish Guram, but he also might lose a decision. He didn't finish, and he won a decision, so I got a full refund on that bet. Either way, your boy's picking winners, okay? If this is the first video you've ever watched, I promise I don't usually curse this much. What happened was Jordan Vucenic shot a takedown from 300 yards away, got submitted because he's fucking dumb. And then I was like, yeah, this card sucks. I started drinking. So I'm filming this drunk. Let's continue on. That took us to the second fight of the night. Caolan Loughran. This is Caolan. Caolan tried out for a singing show. This is him. He didn't win the show, but he did win this fight. A lot of people think this was a bad decision. I actually would have scored it for Caolan. And if you have and I know it's not Caolan. It's like, I forget what they kept saying, but whatever. And I know you guys love to watch these recap videos just to show up and put your own opinion. You don't really care what I have to say. You just want to say your opinion in the comments. Perfectly fine. To those of you who do listen, 80% of you think I have terrible, terrible judging takes. You don't agree with my judging. And I can understand that because I've been watching fights since day one. I saw UFC 1, 2, 3, 4. I've seen every single UFC ever when it aired. I'm old. And I still score fights the way they were scored back in the day. I think meaningless takedowns matter. I think octagon control matters. Where a lot of you have pointed out in the last year or two, hey, none of that shit matters. The one and only thing that matters is damage. And that's fair. And you know what? If that's the criteria, that the only thing that matters is damage, then Nathan Fletcher won this fight. He did the damage. He was the one trying to finish the fight. He was laying the more meaningful shots. All Caolan did was shoot 1 million fucking takedowns, get 1/8 of them, and get some control time. Now me, who thinks that meaningless takedowns matter, I scored it for Caolan. First round was crazy close. Second round was not. Third round, not close. And then at the very end, Nathan Fletcher started to go off. So I understand people saying Fletcher should have won. I understand people saying Caolan should have won. People do use the word robbery wrong. It's not a robbery. This fight was razor thin. You have to score by rounds. The second round was the only decisive round. Third round was 80% Caolan. Then Nathan has a little bit of a flurry at the end. First round, almost nothing happened. So if you're like me and you're old and you have a giant hog, then maybe you scored this for Caolan because of some pointless takedowns with no damage whatsoever. If you're young and cool and hip like Jakey Boy, then maybe you scored it for Nathan Fletcher because he was trying to finish and there was some damage there. So I understand both sides of this. Overall, I still can't stand Caolan. This comment at the bottom, it says, I thought damage mattered. It while I watch the fights, I try to build this, right? If I'm sitting in this chair watching the fights here, I try to build this presentation so I can just record as soon as the fights are over. Full disclosure, I'm filming this before the main event. I'm going to then film the main event, splice it in. This card fucking sucks. I got somewhere to be. I'm not trying to waste an hour after the fights to run through it all. Anyway, this did say angry little elf. And the only reason I changed it is because in his post-fight speech, Loughran wasn't just an angry little elf, but he fights like an angry. He's got the most punchable face you've ever seen in your entire life. He's just angry. He's coiled up. He's just ready to go. He's not very good. I don't know where his success is going to take him. Nathan Fletcher, if he had this much more cardio, it would have been a clear win, but he doesn't, and his takedown defense absolutely sucks. So good for Caolan. Caolan said the game plan was marab him, which means shoot a gazillion takedowns, see what you get. Then we had some of the lowest fight IQ shit I've ever seen in my entire life. Not the lowest. Jordan Vichenik should be thanked for the lowest. But this is some pretty fucking low fight IQ. Puja Tomar and Shauna Bannon went after it. I expected this to be a pretty fun fight. I did not think that there would be a finish. I did not put the over 2.5 in the safety parlay, but I almost did. I made another parlay with the other 2.5, and I said I was going to make this a safety parlay, but I didn't quite trust Carlos Ulberg. Turns out this was the half that was the problem, not Ulberg. In my mind, these are two women that'll get after it. Neither one is particularly dangerous. But not only was that way off, but both of them were dangerous. First, Puja Tomar drops Shauna Bannon. Big head kick, dropped her like a bag of cement. And honestly, if Puja walked away, if she did the UFC 300 Jalen Turner, just walked away like this, they might have stopped it. You get an inexperienced ref that's like, yup, okay, well, okay. They might have stopped it. She dropped Shauna bad. And instead, though, she followed her to the ground. And I can kind of understand that, just throwing punches. Maybe I'll finish her, whatever. Followed her to the ground. Shauna throws up an armbar. The armbar was tight, then very loose. It's hard to tell from the picture on the right here. But if you can just use some deductive reasoning skills, you can estimate where Puja's elbow is. I promise you, her elbow is not in the crotch of Shauna Bannon. It's out. Her elbow's out. And at one point in time, Puja Tomar was fully out of this armbar. The elbow was no longer in danger. The arm was no longer in danger. But because Puja has some of the lowest fight IQ I've ever seen, she decided, instead of staying on her feet with her arm half out and completely removing herself from the situation, she decided to go all in, push her arm in, somehow get deeper into the armbar, like helping your teammate out in practice. I've drilled armbars for probably literally 1,000 hours in my lifetime. I've been doing jiu-jitsu since fucking 2002. That looked like a teammate helping somebody out. Oh, no, yeah, my elbow's out. Here you go. Oh, now you can get it. Dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. So stupid. These are the losses that will haunt you. Puja Tomar is going to think about this for a million years. If she got sparked, I got beat by the better person. It is what it is, right? I've wrestled my whole life. I competed in jiu-jitsu hundreds of times, thousands of times, hundreds of tournaments. Not hundreds, that's an exaggeration. I've probably had 500 grappling matches. I don't know. Who gives a shit? Anyway, point being, the ones that keep you up at night, that haunt you, are the ones where you did dumb shit. Not where you got smoked. I've been smoked plenty of times. It's not when you get smoked. It's when you could have won and didn't. This is going to bother Puja for a while. Hopefully she learns from it. There's skills there. Also, the caption on this video says insane fight IQ because Puja's stupid as shit. Before that happened, the comment here was dumb ass kicks. And not for Puja. Puja's kick wasn't dumb. It almost won her the fight. Shauna Bannon. Shauna Bannon hops on one leg and then sends the other leg. It's so dumb. It's annoying to watch. And I never want to see her win a fight again. This is drunk Ange, so sorry. It is brutal to watch. It's like, oh, I get it. You did Taekwondo when you were 7. I get it. Oh my God, is it brutal? Just skipping across the mat on one foot to kick with the other one. And then gets dropped, almost gets knocked out cold, only to pull this shit off. What an absolute joke. Then we had more insane fight IQ. This entire card was loaded with some of the worst decision-making I have ever seen in my life. Christian Leroy Duncan won this fight. Congratulations. You were a minus 550 favorite. You were the biggest favorite on the entire card. You won the fight. I hope you're happy. His odds to win this fight inside the distance were minus money. And if you don't know how odds work, basically, he was a favorite to win this fight by finish, to win by knockout, to get this fight done. And that's not what happened. What we got was Christian Leroy Duncan on the outside, bang, 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 looking pretty good, clean, shoot some stupid-ass takedown. But his wrestling sucks, so he didn't actually get a takedown. What he got was a bunch of trash cage control that didn't matter for anything. And he did that over and over. This fight was so boring, and there was such irrelevant cage control that the referee separated them. The referee was like, all right, well, nothing's happening here. This is stupid. Go ahead and step off. Separated them just for Christian to go right back to the cage. You would have thought Christian Leroy Duncan's a very good striker. We saw moments of that. He's a guy that has found a lot of finishes in his career. You would have thought he was fighting like a world-level kickboxer and he was afraid to engage. So he was going to turn into a wrestler. Dude, it made no sense. No sense whatsoever. Christian Leroy Duncan won the fight. He should have won the fight. He was supposed to win this fight. He was the better striker. I guess we can call him the better grappler, even though he didn't get any like real clean takedowns. He was just sort of holding him against the cage. But the reality is, underwhelming performance. Let's put it that way. Underwhelming performance. Andrey Pulyaev, not very good. Had no success, like really. One judge gave him a round, and you know, his takedown defense against the cage was okay. It was surprising how long and tall he was, and he used that pretty well. But for the most part, wildly underwhelming fight. And this is really when the card started to suck shit. Because then we had a couple of slugs. We had Marcin Tybura take on Mick Parkin. This was awful. Just a miserable slug fight. This is a real picture of those two giant slugs fighting. And slug fight's a term that I've used on this channel. I typically use it as like two guys that just gonna go at it, but it's sloppy. What we got here was a literal slug fight. We got two slow, sloppy slugs that were fighting in slow motion. It was awful. Mick Parkin is slow as shit. Marcin Tybura, slow as shit. And they were just being slow together. There was random success here and there. At one point, like first round, razor thin. Razor thin, nothing happened whatsoever. Then the second round, Mick Parkin ended up on top, had a crucifix kind of, like really very clear, good grappler, dominated that round. Then third round, in a fight that he was taking over, should have won, was going to run away with the decision, he's just backing up, letting Marcin and his wild haircut move forward and throw crazy strikes. And this was the rest of the fight. There was some ground exchanges that Mick Parkin won, and then the rest of the fight was this. This is a staring contest, if you can't tell. That's what it was. A staring. They didn't even blink. They both won a staring contest. It was brutal. It was brutal. It was stupid. What I will say, though, is Marcin Tybura winning a unanimous was shocking. This should have been a split decision. It was close enough that a judge should have been like, I think Mick won, right? He came closer in the second round. I think some of the shots were more impactful. But no, it was 29-28 across the board, clean for Tybura. I was surprised by that. This fight sucked, though. Like, this is another fight. Like, Mick can't sit in his room. If you are a Mick Parkin supporter, do not let him, and don't gas him up on Twitter, and don't sit there and be like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. Oh, I thought you won that fight. I thought that was a bad decision. I thought you won that fight. No, because that just encourages more slug fight nonsense. That was a theme in the commentary. If you watch the card, the commentating team, a lot of Michael Bisping actually, in a lot of fights, this fight, the Padilla fight, the co-main event, a lot of these fights were like, they're going to regret this later. You're not trying to win this fight. You're going to regret this later. You are going to hate yourself later for this. And that's what Mick Parkin's going to have to do because you didn't do anything to try to win this fight. Then we got back to an exciting fight. Loughran Kavanagh, Felipe dos Santos was fun. And that's for two reasons. One, they weren't afraid to engage. Finally, a couple of fighters that went at it. They both move forward. Right off the rip, Felipe dos Santos lands a huge, just cracks Loughran Kavanagh real clean. And we're like, uh-oh. But Loughran chin on him, stayed composed, started to grapple a little bit. Second round really took over with the grappling because, as expected, a shoot-a-box guy has some grappling holes and got taken down and started to slow down a little bit. But this was a fun fight. Every single thing Felipe does is with 100% intent. He's never just thought about knocking you out. Everything he does is to try to knock you out. On the ground, he tried to work some stuff, a couple of interesting scrambles, but nothing that meaningful. Loughran Kavanagh, lightning fast, as we expected. Great takedowns. Didn't expect them to be as good as they were, but they were very good. Lots of damage. 99% of this blood was coming from Loughran, but he had a cut like on his forehead. It didn't matter. It was just a hairline cut, and it was just very, very bloody. This was a very fun fight. I don't know who got fight of the night bonus, but this is one of the only candidates on the card. Literally one of the only candidates. But Loughran Kavanagh is a very real prospect. I do fear that the UFC is either going to give Felipe to somebody else they're trying to build up next or cut Felipe. I don't think they should do either one of those things. When you have a card like this, 13 fights, 10 of them sucked. Like sucked. Weren't like it. Literally 10 of these fights sucked. But you get a guy like Felipe that every single fight he's in, you know for a fact is going to be exciting. I don't care about his record. I don't care about his record. Put him out there. At least you know for a fact you'll get a fun fight. Loughran Kavanagh is a very real prospect. One of the only undefeated prospects in 2025 that hasn't lost their record. So I'm curious to see what happens to him next, and I do hope Felipe gets to hang on to his job. Then we had Jacob's underdog lock of the week, Chris Padilla, taking on Jai Herbert. And before I get some comments, robbery. This is the exact same thing as the Caolan Loughran Nathan Fletcher fight. It's exactly the same thing. Literally, exactly the same thing. Neither one of these guys did enough to really lock down this card. Neither one of these guys did enough to say, I won this clearly, so nothing is a robbery. And they gave it to Chris Padilla. I can understand giving it to Chris Padilla. I can understand giving it to Jai Herbert. Earlier, I talked about my horrendous judging skills when I sit here and I think forward pressure matters. I think empty takedowns matter. So, Jai Herbert with the empty pressure, just moving forward, but like literally doing nothing, just looking like he's going to do something, but not actually doing anything. That empty pressure in the old school, I'd be like, well, Jai, that's octagon control, right? He was controlling the center. Chris was backing up. But Chris was the only one who actually tried to do something. Chris was the one who rushed Jai against the cage and tried to get some takedowns. There were two meaningful shots in this whole fight. One, I think it was a nice head kick from Jai or something that Jai did split Chris Padilla's eyebrow open. That was late in the third, didn't matter. And two, Chris Padilla landed a really nice elbow. Like a beautiful, same elbow he won his last fight with. He landed that. Outside of those two different random strikes, this entire fight was just two dudes circling like this, staring at each other and just like not committing, doing nothing. The funniest part about this is everybody's saying Jai won. Everybody was insisting that Jai was going to win and people that think he did. Dude, you can't. Jai sucks. Jai sucks. Jai is the established UFC veteran. Jai got a brand new UFC contract they want to talk about. Jai, 5 times. I counted it and I drank 5 times. They mentioned, if you're wondering what that was about, in my quick pick video, I said every time they mentioned Jai dropped Ilia Topuria to take a drink. They mentioned it 5 times. He dropped Ilia Topuria. Jai Herbert. Where was that? Where was that here? You got your new contract and you just were perfectly fine in a staring contest. I don't know if it's they were in England, he's around home, and it's just too much, he's afraid to. What he did have is some forward pressure, some fake fast twitch kind of stuff. What he did have was a little bit of toughness, the length, defended the takedowns, but he didn't commit to anything. This was another fight where the announcers were like, well, whoever loses this fight is going to hate themselves because they didn't do enough. The undercard was so slow and so boring, it went 20 minutes long. 20 minutes long. They literally had to start being like, welcome, if you're here for UFC London, we're just finishing up this very close undercard It all sucked. This fight sucked too. I've spent more time talking about this fight than entertainment this fight brought people. It was funny, though, when they gave the decision to Chris Padilla, because I did think it was going to go to Jai Herbert. It felt like these English judges just hate the English fighters. Like, you guys were not getting any gifts whatsoever. Then we had the opening fight of the main card. This opened up as a pretty fun fight. This looked like it was going to be an exciting fight, and then it went back to everything else that every other fight was, a staring contest. It opened up nice. Nathaniel Wood, lightning fast. The caption here is speed kills because holy shit is he fast. As we all know, he's a 135-pounder who moved up to 145, and he kept that speed with him. He sent a kick and then a straight right down the middle. Morgan Charrier had no idea where that came from. He just fell straight back. To the point where it's like, that was a bad drop. Like, I was shocked he was able to survive at all. Then Nathaniel Wood follows him to the ground. There's some exchanges there. Next round, Morgan Charrier, a couple staring contests. They end up on the ground. He's on top. Like, what was interesting is after this drop, which was very early in the fight, there's a scramble. I forget exactly how Morgan ends up on top, but Morgan ends up on top. And when he's on top, it's like, all right, he's survived. He's on top. Nathaniel Wood from bottom was like armbar, triangle, armbar, omoplata, armbar, triangle. He did not stop moving. The original caption here, instead of speed kills, was that's how you work on bottom. Because that is exactly how you work on bottom. The only reason I didn't stick with that caption is he hung out there a little too long. Like, he was just, at a certain point, you throw up those submissions, you threaten with them, you get your opponent worrying about them a little bit, but then you get the fuck out of there. You just drop this dude. Get back to your feet. Stop messing around off your back. Nathaniel Wood threatened with submissions. Very clear his jiu-jitsu is top-notch, but also very clear that Morgan Charrier's jiu-jitsu defense is top-notch. None of those submissions were very close, but what they did do is give Morgan the opportunity to shake the cobwebs and regain his sort of consciousness. The rest of the fight was kind of more the same, but as Nathaniel Wood slowed down, so did the pace of this fight. It felt like Morgan was just afraid to fully commit. He had a couple of nice elbows. He had a couple of nice shots short and close. This was a unanimous decision across the board, 30-27. I was surprised. I thought Morgan did enough to at least win one round, or at least have the judges, disagreeing with each other here and there, but they all went with Nathaniel Wood, and frankly, it was the correct decision. I was just surprised it was as wide as it was. Nathaniel Wood is good. He's fast. He's clean. I am curious to see what's next for both of these guys, because Morgan Charrier is also good. Morgan's able to recover, as we saw. He's able to wrestle. He's got good top control. He's got good strike. Morgan is good. He just fought somebody that was way too fast and couldn't get out ahead of that. Nathaniel Wood at this weight class, I do think eventually he's going to hit a wall. Like, he's going to start to get bullied. He's going to have problems with some of the bigger people who want to push him around like Muhammad Naimov did. But he's so fast. He's so clean. If he continues to evolve, works the outside more, he can do a lot, dude. Nathaniel Wood is very, very good. Speaking of good, we had one of the dumbest motherfuckers in the world make one of the dumbest motherfucking decisions I've ever seen get made in a fist fight. Jordan Vucenic is stupid as shit. And nobody thought professional fist fighters were the most enlightened people on the planet. But if your whole job is to win fist fights, maybe don't do stupid things that will directly result in the impact of you winning a fist fight. For example, right off the rip, Chris Duncan drops Jordan Vucenic. Drops him clean. And you know what? That's going to happen. I'm not mad at Jordan yet. That's going to happen. Jordan's able to survive on the ground. Jordan's able to make something happen. Jordan's able to continue on and end up in the second round. And then in the second round, Jordan's taken over the striking. It looked like Chris Duncan completely had an adrenaline dump. He slowed down. His head's getting snapped back. Jordan's starting to hit a flow state. Jordan's starting to land clean. Jordan is very clearly taking over the fight. Very clear. Everybody thought that. Chris Duncan's mother was like, Jordan's taking over this fight. And then what does Jordan do? He shot a takedown, no joke, from the other side of the cage. This is a 20-foot cage. Chris Duncan's on one side from 20 feet away. Jordan Vucenic shoots a takedown. 20 feet away. He didn't even, he bent over at his waist and just like ran forward like this. It was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen in my life. One of the dumbest fucking things I've ever seen in my entire, it was bad. It was bad. That is literally when I just got up and I started to get some drinks. So I was like, fuck this, dude. Like, I can't, everybody wanted to be like, oh, Angelo, you picked Jordan, Jake, you picked. Listen, when Jordan was hitting that flow state and he was dotting up Chris Duncan and having success, that's the Jordan we picked. Not the idiot shooting a takedown from 20 feet away. Who could have thought that? Who could have thought that? And even if you were like, oh, I picked Chris Duncan by submission. Oh, yeah? Was it in your plans that Jordan was going to shoot a takedown from 20 feet away when he was winning the striking? No. That wasn't in your plans. But here we are. That's what happened. And that's the problem. Ange, why? Imagine picking Jordan Vucenic. Hindsight's 2020. Okay, relax. Second of all, we were coming off of a short notice Jordan Vucenic looking very good in the UFC debut. He beat a lot of good regional people. And none of those fights did he shoot takedowns from 300 yards away. None of them. Couple of takeaways here. I still think Jordan is a good, skilled fighter. People in the Discord were like, caught him. No, he's actually good. He made a horrible decision. It cost him the fight. It definitely cost him the fight. And it was one of the worst, dumbest decisions I've seen somebody actively make in a fist fight. But he's still good. He's still good. I still believe in Jordan Vucenic. Am I going to bet on him again? No. He's a fucking idiot. I'm not betting on him. But he does have some skills. 2, Chris Duncan. This is a guy you can't count out. And if you go back and listen to my breakdown for this fight, my very first breakdown was, everybody's on Jordan Vucenic. Why? Because he lost his UFC debut. Not that bad. So we're all going to pick him and say he's great because he didn't lose that bad when he lost. A winless UFC fighter lost. And we're like, he's good now. And then as the week went on, I let everybody's opinion seep into my brain. And I was like, I got more confident as the week went on. My initial, if you watch the Sunday quick pick videos, that's where I'm lit up green, baby. That's where Big Ange has the good picks. And then as the week goes on, and it's not always in this direction, right? There's been fighters where I full-blown flipped and I was correct. But as the week goes on, other opinions start to seep in. The benefit of being the very first person to put out any meaningful breakdown. Of course, there's nerds before me putting shit out. But the very first person to put out a meaningful breakdown with like nice graphics and a solid personality, good looks, a hammer in his pants, is me. And the benefit of that is there's no other opinion on this planet. I have no idea what anybody else thinks because I'm the first one here. Then you start to listen to other people and you start to think things like Jordan Vucenic's not stupid. Good for Chris Duncan, though. This dude gets it done, man. He said he was the most exciting Scottish fighter on the roster. He is. He 100% is. Then we had Molly McCann's retirement. Holy shit, is Molly McCann bad? Oh, my God. Who gave her a brown belt? That's what I want to know. Because you know what? At a certain point, we need to recognize there's a difference between wrestling and jiu-jitsu. I've recognized that forever, but a lot of people don't, right? A lot of people call all of it grappling. It's not all grappling. Jiu-jitsu is grappling. Wrestling is wrestling. And when I break down people like Kevin Holland, I note his wrestling sucks, but his jiu-jitsu is good. And we'll talk about Kevin Holland next. Molly McCann's wrestling sucks, but at least her defensive wrestling sucks. But somebody gave her a brown belt one day. They just gave it to her, like off the shelf. And every week that goes by, I think she got it from like a kid's karate class because she didn't earn that fucking shit doing jiu-jitsu because, oh my God, is her jiu-jitsu bad? It's bad. It's not even like, her jiu-jitsu so bad. The fight IQ is bad, fine. Like, why were you clinching? Why were you in a situation to even get thrown to the ground? That's on you. What are you doing? You could have won this fight just with striking alone. But the jiu-jitsu being as bad as it is, and she got a brown belt, that's what's crazy to me. I mentioned earlier, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a very, very, very long time. I've seen the work that has to get put in. I have not put in that work, which is why I'm not a black belt. I'm 20 plus years in. I should have been a black belt a long time ago. But I'm not, because I did not put the work in. See how that works? You don't put the work in, you don't get the reward. You get it? Holy shit, does Molly McCann suck. She clearly does not put the work in. She somehow got the reward of a brown belt because she's not a brown belt. And I understand this is a fist fight, not a grappling match, but the things she was doing, the way her hips were moving, the decisions she was making were all terrible. Now let's back up and give Tainara her flowers. She looked good, man. The walkout was the cringiest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never seen a Discord or a comment section turn faster in my life. Everyone's like, Tainara's going to win. Tainara's going to win. Then oh my God, that walkout dragged forever. It just was never ending. It dragged and dragged and dragged. It was never ending. And people were like, oh my gosh, she needs to lose. Let's go, Molly. Let's go, Molly. It didn't quite play out that way. So good for Tainara. She got the takedown. She got full mount. Like, she just dominated here. She looked good. 1 week's notice. Enemy territory against an established UFC veteran. Good for Tainara. I don't know where she goes next. I don't know how good she is or isn't, because she just basically blew through somebody with the most fraudulent jiu-jitsu belt I've ever seen. Then we had Kevin Holland doing Kevin Holland things. This is a real picture. I didn't go to AI. This is a real picture from this fight. This really happened. Gunnar Nelson got a takedown. Kevin Holland throws up an omoplata. Gunnar Nelson just stands up, and Kevin Holland's just hanging out in the omoplata, hovering in the air, literally laughing. Him and Gunnar Nelson are laughing. It was insane. The rest of the fight was a little different, though, because Gunnar had a little bit of early success, had that takedown, was able to survive armbar triangle, omoplata, was able to survive that. Then they end up on their feet, and Kevin Holland blasts Gunnar Nelson. Blasts him. Drops that dude. Blasts him bad. Gunnar Nelson falls like a tree. He's getting bounced off the ground. Like, bounced off the ground. Kevin Holland is landing big shots. Gunnar Nelson's head is bouncing off of the canvas. And if there was 1 minute left, the ref would have stopped it. But because there was only a couple of seconds left, the ref definitely knew the time. And I know they're not supposed to care. This ref cared, okay? This ref was like, I'll just let it go. There's only a couple seconds left. Because Gunnar Nelson was like that, getting his head smashed backwards. Second round, you can see Kevin started to slow down a little bit, lost a little pop. Same with the third round, but Kevin won this fight. Pretty straightforward fight. Seemed exactly what I thought it would be. I picked Kevin Holland to win this fight. He did win this fight, and he seemed more focused than I thought he would. He defended a few takedowns, and the announcers were like, oh, Kevin Holland's takedown defense. No, his takedown defense still sucks shit. Gunnar Nelson's offensive takedowns suck because that stupid karate stance. Listen, I've said it. There's only 3 people in the history of the sport that can do the karate stance well. Wonderboy, MVP, and Lyoto Machida. That's it. And Wonderboy just got knocked out cold. MVP only has a few years left. He's 37. There's about to be no good, effective karate style guys because that shit is from the 90s and it doesn't work anymore. Gunnar, with his karate stance, it takes so long to go from that stance to a wrestling takedown. So long that anybody that has Kevin Holland or better takedown defense can defend those takedowns. I think Gunnar Nelson's done. I don't know when he's just going to wait 3 years to fight on this card again. Oh, they're in London. I'll show up. Give me somebody you think I can beat. That's Gunnar Nelson's whole MO. Kevin Holland, on the other hand, just got a nice win, which means he's about to accept a short notice 185-pound fight and get smoked. That's the unfortunate reality of Kevin Holland. All the talent in the world, does not take his career serious enough, but he is good. Good jiu-jitsu, fast hands, powerful strikes. He's good. He just doesn't take his career very seriously. And then we had the co-main event of the evening. Jan Blachowicz taking on Carlos Ulberg. This is not a still image. Here's the video. I hope I don't get a copyright strike because here's the entire fight. Here it is. You're watching the whole fight. This is what it was. Carlos Ulberg is closer to a tap dancer than he is a kickboxer. And I understand he has kickboxing accolades and maybe he was frozen by the idea of getting taken down here, but he did this in his last fight too. He didn't commit to anything. He wants to hang on the outside. Jan would come in. Jan lit up Ulberg's legs early. Jan pressured forward. Ulberg would land like a striker two, dance around the outside. Striker two, dance around the outside. Striker two, dance to the other side. That's what this fight was. Jan with a couple of leg kicks, Ulberg dancing. You could have played La Cucaracha, and Ulberg's feet would have been doing exactly what they should be doing to La Cucaracha. This was, I mean, I don't want to be like negative Ange, but like this was not a good fight card. When your co-main event is in the 205-pound division with a professional kickboxer who has the longest active win streak in that division, taking on a 42-year-old man who had 3 surgeries and hasn't fought in 2 years, and he's just dancing around the outside afraid to engage, this is what you're going to get. This is what you're going to get. It's crazy. You're going to get negative Ange. My friends are all out there drinking right now, hanging out for March Madness, and I'm here filming this because if I didn't film it, there would be outrage. And random Twitter profiles like, I am going to recap because Angelo, shut the fucking dweeb. Get your own life. Don't try to leech off of mine. You're like the little fish that follows the shark, nerd. This card sucked, honestly, and I should end the recap here because I am filming this before the main event. Because I was like, I'm not going to waste a full 40 minutes after what is going to be a boring main event and do a recap then. I'm going to start filming it now. I'll stop, watch the main event, and then finish. So I'm going to stop, and I'll come back after I know what happens in the main event. The main event was solid. I'm not going to go as far as saying that it redeemed the whole card because this card stunk. But I will say the main event helped because at least we had a fight. We had something that mattered, a meaningful outcome. Like Carlos Ulberg continues the longest active win streak at 205, but that performance sucks so bad. How could you argue giving him a title shot? This, on the other hand, is different. Sean Brady comes forward, gets a bunch of takedowns. Mounted guillotine finishes Leon Edwards. Now, all of a sudden, there is a case for Sean Brady to get a title shot. And he has history with Bilal Muhammad. They fought each other before. He wants that back. So Sean Brady actually did something impactful, did something meaningful, did something that matters to the sport and to us fans on this fight card in this main event. What I will say is Leon Edwards is done, dude. He's done. To get bullied, to get pushed around, taken down like that, controlled, to be that useless on the ground, to not let your hands go on your feet, to not be able to commit. Like, Leon Edwards was lightning in a bottle. He was lightning in a bottle. He won the title in a wild, undeniable, don't let him bully you, son, come from behind win. Then he gets what I thought was a very interesting decision in the next fight, and then takes forever off, and he defends that belt against a guy who hadn't fought in a few years that also did nothing. And now he fought somebody who's going to move forward, wasn't afraid to engage, and that was Bilal Muhammad. He took his belt. Then he fought somebody else who was going to move forward, not afraid to engage. Loses to Sean Brady. I think, I don't know what happens next for Leon Edwards. And I think what I'm going to do is, if you watch this channel, you know that myself and Josh Thompson, former UFC, not UFC, Strikeforce world champion. The UFC did not have a lightweight division or a lightweight champion when he was world champion. Him and I do a show called Bad Takes. We just talk about different things in the sports. I think the next topic we're going to do is, why is it so hard for a champion to work their way back up to the top? I think the only person I could think of that lost the belt and didn't just, win it back in an immediate rematch, but the only person I could think of that lost the belt that continued to hover around the top 5 in the world after losing their belt is Robert Whittaker. He never won it again, but he had the belt. He lost it, continued to beat everybody else, and just continue earning title shots. Where Leon Edwards lost the belt, then he just lost this fight, and now we're in a world where it's like, who can Leon beat now? Like, it's crazy how quick things turn. Sean Brady looked great. Sean Brady did what we thought we were going to do. I picked him. Jacob picked him. I mentioned bet Sam bet on him. You bet on him to win by submission. So Sean Brady looks spectacular. I honestly think I might want to see Sean Brady versus Bilal instead of Shavkat. Shavkat's last fight kind of sucked too. And Sean Brady at least came out here in a boring card, put a stamp on the whole thing. Said, I'm not going to fall into this lull. I'm not afraid of the moment. I'm not going to get struck by the lights in this giant arena in enemy territory and not do what I want to do. He did what he wanted to do. He moved forward. He made it happen. Good for Sean Brady. Especially, he's a guy we've hated on in the past on this channel. So good for Sean Brady. I'm glad he got it done. I'm not glad that I bet on the spread for Leon Edwards. I thought that absolute clown shoe would look a little better. Jesus, dude, shave your head, go to Turkey, and just start throwing kicks and punches again. What are you afraid to do? Guys, UFC Mexico is up and ready to go. And before you check out the UFC Mexico bets at WeWantPicks.com, check out WeWantPicks.com/bets. We have affiliate links. Use one of the affiliate links. Sign up with a book. Make a deposit. We send you $50 as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing. They're going to pay me. I'll slice off some of that money. I'll give it right back to you. And then once you go to the website, you'll see that's more than just a couple of bets. More than just like Angelo safety parlay. There's a lot going on, including an optimizer, which builds DraftKings fantasy lineups for you. A fight simulator, which will simulate fights 100,000 times and give you those outcomes. And you'll have full access to everything that we do for the entire month. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. That month just got you UFC London. It will get you UFC Mexico, UFC Vegas 105, and UFC 314. Guys, thank you so much for the watch. Like, subscribe, do all the things, and hopefully you have enough night left to wash off the stink that was UFC London.